Murat of The Athletic is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to hit that red subscribe button if you're new. Great to have you all with us. Murat, last night, we all sort of paid attention to what was happening at the draft lottery, although I think we all sort of knew it was highly probable, like 95% probable the Jets were picking 14th, where they are picking right now. But, you had the half-hour draft special, and like an hour later, I'm reading a mock draft with you and your colleagues from The Athletic. Tell us about what last night was like and how this all came together before we talk about what the Winnipeg Jets situation was at 14.
Yeah, you know what? At The Athletic, when it comes to prospect coverage, Corey Pronman and Scott Wheeler, I mean, they're the drivers of that bus. They're the ones all year long doing the top 10, top 20, top 30, top 200 rankings on draft-eligible prospects. And so they wanted to take the lead and come up with a mock draft as soon as the draft order was known. Well, we took turns going through from 1 to 17, and we went pick by pick. What would the teams do if the board broke that way? I like to think I took a pretty talented, flashy at times, but extremely fast and committed center in Frank Nazar.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Frank Nazar. We can get, maybe to some of the other players and some of the other discussions that went around. But this is a center from the National Development Program. The Jets have had a lot of success picking some, American players, either from colleges, the USHL, where Kyle Connor was before he went to Michigan. He's a center. Tell us more about this player that fell to the Jets in your first attempt at a mock.
Well, yeah, fell to the Jets is a great way to put it, because Nazar's thought it was a top 10 talent. And if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan and you watched the last couple of drafts, I mean, Cole Perfetti falling to the Jets at 10, Chaz Lucius falling to the Jets at 18. I think that Winnipeg got so fortunate, and we'll see how these players' careers go, of course. There's always surprises. But on draft day, they would have had to have gone home both times thinking, my goodness, we didn't have a lot of picks, but look what we were able to do in the first round. And with the Jets picking 14th, that's exactly the same type of vibe they'll hope for, that a top 10 talent like perhaps Nazar in this case, speedy, willing to go to the dangerous areas, a little bit undersized, and that's the concern about whether he'll be able to be a dominant center. But he seems to be, to read Pronman, to watch the video, willing to go to the toughest areas of the ice and generate offense from there. And he's done a lot of that for the US NDTP. So that's a player thought of as top 10 that could slide. But, as I'm waiting and watching that draft board unfold, I'm wondering, is 6'4" center Connor Geekie going to be available? Strath's players' finest, or maybe Morgan Geekie. I don't know what the brother relationship is like in that family, right? But that is a player that could be available there. Dominion City's Denton Mateychuk is another player that could be available there. There are some really, whether it's centers, whether it's defensemen, is available. There are options. And I think Winnipeg at 14 is just going to be their job to clean up the best player available that's left as teams go this way or that, and some surprises unfold on draft day.
Well, we've seen it happen a number of times. I mean, many people thought the same thing happened with Nikolai Ehlers falling into their lap, and maybe the best example of that is Kyle Connor at 17. It's funny, we were just speaking about Matthew Barzal. He went the selection before, and Thomas Chabot went afterwards after the Bruins famously picked other guys at 13, 14, and 15. But when you are in the middle of the draft, I mean, it sort of is incumbent on your scouting staff to have a real good pulse on the talent level of those players, because at that point, especially with the timeline of the National Hockey League draft, you're not I guess in some ways you might be drafting for need if your pipeline is completely skewed one side or the other. But that doesn't really seem to be the case for the Winnipeg Jets right now.
No, I mean, you might argue that it's leaning defense heavy, but there aren't a ton of absolutely elite studs, coming at that defensive pipeline. There's some possible top 4 options. You'd like to see more from Ville Heinola, Dylan Samberg, Declan Chisholm. We'll see if he plays tonight for the Moose, but he's been one of the best players for Manitoba through the playoffs, a real impressive player. But you don't have that, that Mateychuk or that type of top flight defenseman on the way. So you wouldn't feel begrudged if the Jets go that way. And at the same time, both Cole Perfetti and Chaz Lucius, as dynamic as they are, as brilliant as they are, neither one is absolutely guaranteed to be an NHL centerman, right? I mean, you see Perfetti break in on the wing. We'll see what becomes of Lucius as well. It seems as though, Pierre-Luc Dubois is that young center to be. And you're going to need a replacement or contingency plan for him. Even if he stays in Winnipeg for a long time, you need that next wave if there's any chance at all. I mean, that's an area you might prioritize. The Jets don't like taking goaltenders early. We haven't seen that. They seem to take one late, 5th, 6th, or 7th round almost every draft. That's how they got Connor Hellebuck. And if you're looking into the long term, I mean, maybe Arvid Holm is your guy. Maybe Eric Comrie can continue to take incredible steps forward, but that's a late round thing that you're looking for. Winnipeg needs help at every position. It's not because of poor drafting. It's because of not enough picks. And whatever they do, as long as they get somebody who covers the bet for that spot, I think is what they'll look for.
And just quickly on Mateychuk for a minute, who's playing, I believe, with Moose Jaw right now, going up against going up against the Winnipeg Ice in the playoffs. If he was there and the Jets decided to select him, one of the more interesting sides to that would be, and regardless of the coach, I mean, whether it's Barry Trotz or not, they're packed right now with defensive prospects that seem ready to go. They've also are packed with veteran defensemen that are on contract. And we know that that'll be, an issue for Cheveldayoff to try to open up a little bit of that. But a selection like Mateychuk might potentially kick a decision down the road a little bit, and at the same time give them some capital to potentially move for a player that can help them right now. And of course, we're talking about that group. I think Dylan Sandberg's going to be a player next year, but we've still waited for Ville Heinola to be a regular with the Winnipeg Jets. If they think that Mateychuk can be that guy in a year or two, maybe that opens up the potential for trade opportunities, not only with some of the veteran players, but as well as a prospect or two.
Yeah, and I wrote to that effect in that mock draft as well, because I think that's realistic, Huss. I think that that's possible. Winnipeg as a franchise right now, they're not in tank mode. This isn't a team that's going to be looking at a whole bunch of top 5 picks in the next several years, nor are they obvious cup contenders. They missed the playoffs with a playoff-worthy roster this past year. So how do the Jets see themselves? How are they going to approach this next little while? And I think that they like their veteran roster. I think that they think if they can get the right coach in here and change the way some of these guys play, even if they have to make a move or two, that this is a playoff team. And if that's the case, then that logjam on defense, I don't think they're going to move 4 veterans to make room for Sandberg and Heinola and make sure that Logan Stanley gets third pairing time and consider Declan Chisholm's future and all those sorts of things. It's at least possible that they go a different route and they ship from the future. And if you are able to pluck a Mateychuk or some of the other highly touted offensive defensemen, and there's a few who are very similar to Heinola in maybe a little bit more advanced of a way, 5'10", 5'11", great at transition, all that sort of stuff. I bet you if Winnipeg were to take a defenseman like that, they'd get calls, and they'd probably explore calls with Ville Heinola as well in an attempt to find balance on the roster, knowing that the skill set was replicated.
There is Murat of The Athletic.